What's the point of broadcast media training in a social media landscape? My short answer, everything's changed, yet nothing's really changed. Keep watching if you want to know why. When I began my working life as a reporter on the Reading Chronicle way back in 1981, I bashed out my copy on an inky ribbon typewriter, and if it was good enough, the story would appear in the newspaper the following Thursday. It was a weekly. So in effect, local organisations, the council, the emergency services, businesses, the university, charities had one opportunity for coverage per week, or in theory at least 52 chances a year, though for most organisations it was significantly less often as there was an informal rationing system. We can't give them the space again this week. It was only last week we did a story on so-and-so or on such and such. Now, local radio and regional telly increased the opportunities with their daily output, and rolling news coverage increased the opportunities further still. But their patches were often larger, so they could be more choosy about what got on air. So though there were more editorial audience touch points, the chances of coverage remained fairly low. Then along came social media with the Facebook, as it was called on launch in February 2004, and the potential for audience touchpoints for pretty much every organisation, large and small, rapidly multiplied over the next decade or so to daily and even multiple times a day. This technological shift meant editors, press barons and broadcast media moguls were no longer the gatekeepers, the bouncers if you like, standing between you and an audience. With a social media account, anyone could reach them and get on the dance floor, as it were. And despite the intense competition across the social web, that remains the case, with an algorithm caveat that I'll save for another post. So that's the change, broadly speaking, one of scale and reach. Billions of humans globally have access to a smartphone and therefore to the internet, so newspaper circulation areas and transmitter footprints are no longer such limiting issues. But what's not changed significantly is that all media, and I mean all media, digital, social, analog, print, broadcast, podcast, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, I could go on, have a voracious appetite for content, ideally for something new. After all, that is in essence what news is, although I accept that a lot of what passes for news these days is nothing of the sort. And that means distilling your key messages from everything you could say but haven't got the time or the space or the audience appetite for is pretty much the same as it was half a lifetime ago. If anything, key messages have to be even more carefully selected and tightly drawn now, because the contact time we have with our audiences has dropped, as you'll understand if you see particularly young people swipe in literally seconds from one post to the next. This content imperative means deploying the best facts and figures to evidence your key messages has hardly changed either. As a rule of thumb, no more than 3 facts per key message. It means telling the most powerful stories to illustrate your key messages hasn't altered either. I was writing stories back in the day that were clear and concise, although not all my sub-editors would agree, and I spoke to both the rational and emotional components of what it was and still is and will always be to be human. Stories tell and stories sell, so show them and tell them and sell them. My key message, that broadcast media training is as valuable now as it ever was, because it's the basic discipline that underpins all editorial content.